What's up, guys? My name's Doofus Mcdooface, and today we're creating a tier list for income mercenaries in Legion TD2. These are the mercs that you can send your opponents. They give you gold, they give you income, and today I'm just going to highlight on the income side, and if you guys enjoy this, in the future we can then do the power mercs as well, and maybe we could even do all of them together and see where if an income and a power merc are in the same sort of level, does that drop one, does that raise one? But for now, we're doing income mercs, and let's start off from the bottom. Then we'll go our way to the top. We're talking snails. I mean, snails, right off the bat, you know, it's your basic income merc. It's what everybody starts with. So I feel like starting with B is where I'm going to put it for now. Wave 1 snailing, you know, I hate getting them. I hate getting snails wave 1. I also love sending snails wave 1, so it sort of counterbalances itself. Also can be great into like AoE builds, you know, Oathbreakers, Archers, things where you want to spam snails, Daphnes. So you can sort of both scale and use these quite tactically. But I would say they fall off, right? I'd say they fall off pretty hard. But you know, talking through, I think I'm going to put an A for now, actually. Like, thinking about how often I use snails, I think they're pretty decent. Maybe it's a B, maybe it's a B, but for now, I'm going to go A tier. We also have giant snail. Giant snail's amazing. Let's just put giant snail in S tier. I know I kind of cheated, but I mean, you gotta include giant snail. It's an income mercenary, right? If you click on that Legion spell, you get giant snails. They're way stronger. They're way more powerful, and you get to send them more often without screwing your teammate, right? Because you're both saying, "Hey, I'm trying with giant snail," while you're just scaling, right? And you guys know me. I love scaling. So let's start with S tier for giant snail, A tier normal snail, but it might drop down to B. All right, next up we've got lizard, one of our 240 Mythium income mercs, the lizard and the dragon turtle. Right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you I'm not a big fan of lizard. Just based off the games, I'm gonna take my personal experiences and say that I don't use lizard very often. Like maybe wave 3, you know, like lizard snail. Rarely ever wave 2. Can't really think of situations where I'm using on wave 4. Maybe one here or there on 5 or 7, but like, I don't know. I just don't really enjoy lizards. Like, I just don't think that the bang for the buck is there with lizard. I mean, I guess maybe it makes sense because they're gonna stay alive pretty much, right? As long as they don't have AoE or something that can snipe the lizard. Pretty much a lizard's gonna stay alive the entirety of the wave. So you gotta decide, do you want the lizard being your damage, or do you want the wave being the damage? And normally I'd rather just send a bunch of snails, DTs, you know. I'd rather send tanks. So that's where lizard for me doesn't seem as appealing. So I'm gonna just come right out and say it. I'm putting lizard in C tier. I don't want to spoil it, but I think it's going to be pretty close to my bottom income mercenary. And maybe they're okay because it's piercing damage, you know, and piercing damage is pretty important in the entirety of the game. But I don't know. Just based off my own experiences, lizard, I would rather dragon turtles, right? I would rather send some DTs. Most circumstances, right? Like, I mean, if their build it's like Archer or something, or Daphne, then yeah, maybe lizards are going to be better, you know, certain circumstances, of course. But I'm thinking most games, I probably send dragon turtles the most of anything. So I'm going to just come right out with A tier with the option of even higher. Dragon turtles, the only arcane tank, whether this is income and power mercs, the only arcane tank up until a Kraken. right? There's only 2 arcane tanks you can send currently. That is a Dragon Turtle, and that is Kraken. And I mean, like 8 DTs? That's 320 Mythium. So you can get 8 DTs out before you can get out 1 Kraken. I love DTs. I love sending them into Podas. I love sending them into Star Colors to waste their shots, waste Zeus shots. I love DTs, man. I'm about to talk myself into A tier. I'm pretty close to putting DTs in A tier here. But for now, I think DTs are A. Not the best damage, but great tanks. And I think that's the viability is. I think they're a really solid early game tank. And for the following, now let's get to our 60 Mythium income merc, the Fiend. This is probably one of the most important of the income mercs. I won't say that it's the best, but I'm going to say it's important because impact into Swift is worthless, right? It's really bad. Like if a Doomsday is trying to kill Fiends or GKs, right? GK is going to be the next level of Swift tank, right? It's not very strong, right? So I mean, a Fiend is extremely important. Fiend is really important in the early game, specifically like I'm thinking wave 8, sending 3 or 4 Fiends on 8 if you can't afford a Ghost Knight, or if you just want to scale and you'd rather send an income merc. Even wave 4. Wave 4 you can get a Fiend. Not recommending anything, but back when I was like playing probably years ago now, people would send me after income Fiends on wave 3 and you leak everything. Right? This is probably before I knew how to build very well. But the Fiend would get targeted like a Zeus or something, and it couldn't kill the Fiend. So you would not kill the Fiend, and you would not touch the wave. You leak the whole thing. It was awful, awfully embarrassing. But yeah, the one thing is, although Fiends are swift and are really good, really complementary against those impact builds, you know, the Harbingers, the Zeuses, the GK, or the, see, I'm thinking GK, the Millenniums, the Doomsdays, they can get shredded by pretty much everything else, since there's so much like pierce and magic damage in the game. So I don't think I'd put it in A tier, but I'd put it in a really important. I think I just said the wrong thing. I don't think I'd put it into S tier. I think it belongs in A tier. Very vital, very important. Fiend has no chance to move. It's locked in as an A tier unit. Next up, we have Dino. And although Dino is the biggest income tank, right? Income, yeah, the biggest income tank. That is correct. Right? I was like thinking it through in my brain, and it's really liked by high elo, right? It really is. I just don't think I use it that often. I don't think I use it that often, and now I'm sort of second guessing myself because, if I'm gonna be honest, I already did this list, and I may have had a couple changes, but now as I'm really thinking it through, maybe Dino is a B tier. Maybe Dino is B tier. It's a big natural tank, right? Natural. Let's just make sure I'm not talking out of my butt. Big natural tank. Doesn't do that much damage, but it is like the first of your really good big tanks, right? I just don't think I use it that often. Like maybe I send one on wave 4 every once in a while when I'm trying to be a nasty starver. I really don't often send them on 8. Sometimes wave 11 you send a bunch of dinos with like PTA or something if you're wanting to scale. But I really, like, for me personally, I don't think Dino's that great. I just don't use it that often, and this is where Dino for you might be like the best. That might be how you win all your games, but for me, I'm thinking it through, and I don't think I send that many Dinos. Like if I could like make an average, I think like I probably send like 15 to 20 snails a game, 15 to 20 DTs a game, maybe 2 or 3 fiends a game, because remember the average is going to be decreased depending on opponent's builds. Lizards, maybe 2 or 3, if not less. Dinos? I don't think I send that many dinos. Maybe 1 a game, if even 1 peaks the average. So I think I feel good with B. Big tank, B for big tank, right? Yeah, it's just a dino, you know, who cares? Cool looking thing though. And now we have Cannoneer. Let me just say, and now we have Cannoneer, and let me just say, probably the best designed of all of the income mercs, you know? And I'm not saying that just because Cannoneer is a good-looking design, but I'm also saying I put her in S tier, put the Cannoneer in S tier. No. With all seriousness, Cannoneer does just so much damage, right? That impact damage, spanks, and there's so many games when I'm really trying to be a professional, right? When I'm actually saving Mythium. There's so many games where I save it. I'm like, let me save for wave 5. Let me save for wave 6. And then I realized the opponents are pretty darn strong. The chance of leaking them with Brute or double Robos is low. And so I choose to be a smarter player, right? Or trying to be. And I just send Cannoneer, Snail, you know? And they leak. And I'm like, wait, what? There's nothing better than long saving, or like semi-long saving, and leaking your opponents with a Cannoneer, leaking your opponents with an income merc. And I feel like Cannoneer does that a lot. I feel like Cannoneer, she's pumping out the damage. And I would say she's probably the best, right? I'd say she's the best of the income mercs. And it's, once again, it's not just because of the design factor, right? I think the impact damage really does spank. Yeah, feeling pretty good with Cannoneer at S tier. Next up, we have Drake. And if you've never heard of Drake shaming, I'm going to explain it to you now. Drake shaming is the highest cost income merc. And so if you ever get so far ahead in a game that you just leave auto send on until your opponents pretty much just die to the wave and whatever you have auto on, that is Drake shaming. And that's something I really enjoy doing. Right? You have so many more workers than the opponents. You're outscaling them so hard that you actually win the game without actually clicking on a power merc, right? You're Drake shaming them, right? It'll send like 4 Drakes or 3 Drakes, whatever Mythium you have, through the auto send, and you leak them. You can also do this with Cannoneer if you're sort of cheating the Drake shame, right? Because you're killing them with income, but like you're clicking on the Cannoneer, which is really juicy. It's also just so much damage. There are also situations where like Drakes almost feel better than imps, you know, or Witch, right? Like I'm sure there's certain games where I'll actually choose to send Drakes into gates, right? Because gates natural, and magic from the Drake. Yeah, there's situations where I'll actually choose to send Drakes over Witches or imps, because it's sort of it's a double-edged sword in my favor, right? It's both an income merc and it's the correct damage typing that might leak them. So I'm gonna put Drake in S tier. I do think it'd sort of be on the bottom echelon here. Cannoneer right there. I love giant snails. Right? These are just 2 things I really enjoy. I wish I got to send Cannoneers more often, but I don't save as often, you know, since like you don't get to see it as much. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Let me just walk this through one more time. The lizard, just not a huge fan. I guess the best part is that it's not going to die till the end. But like, if you gave me the option of 3 lizards, or a Cannoneer or a Drake, I'm probably taking Cannoneer or Drake most games. Dino, it's solid. Like maybe Dino should be higher, or maybe snail should be lower. I just send so many snails. You know, if I could have like a B+ tier, I think I'd put snails there. I think that's one change I would make, is I'd sort of have snail in the B+. But I think for now I'm going to keep that. Fiend has to be A tier. It's right where it belongs. DTs, I send so many DTs. If Drakbot could ever come up with like how many dragon turtles you sent in a game or in a season, oh my goodness, that'd be crazy. I'd have like 28,000 dragon turtles sent this year, something crazy like that. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good with this. As I said, if you guys would like a power mercenaries guide going forward, please let me know in the comments. Likes also help. And yeah, I'm always open to making more Legion content and hoping to make more tier lists. So thank you for watching.